Welcome everyone to the What It Is podcast, episode 2. I'm Rexamillion, and as always, I'm here with P. Rich and Cass. How you guys doing today?
What up? What up?
How y'all doing?
Excellent, brother. Excellent.
That's good. How was you guys' day today?
It was pretty good.
Good. Busy?
Pretty productive.
All right. Well, that's always good.
Productive.
That's always good.
Indeed.
All right. Well, today we have a very hot topic, so we should get right into it. And we're talking about cancel culture, which is a big deal, definitely. And and I guess to kick it off, I have a question. I got some notes over here that I kind of jotted down. And I guess the first question is just basically, do you guys agree with cancel culture? And if so, where do you draw the line on cancel culture?
You want to take this, T?
Yeah, I can go first. I don't necessarily buy into it. I mean, it's like, and I mean, I could be wrong, but I just feel like everybody at some point in their lives, if you were to cancel people based upon what they do wrong all the time, then we all would be canceled.
That's true.
It just depends on what it is. Like, now I'm not a proponent for, like, in cases of child molestation or pedophilia or anything like that. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right.
But things that stupid, like the Pepe Le Pew thing they were talking about.
yeah. Canceling cartoon characters.
Yeah, it's like, come on, y'all got too much time on your hands.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you, Cass?
I sort of agree with what Tosh was saying, but at the same time, I kind of feel like it's not a bad thing, but it can become a bad thing. Like,
right.
People being held accountable for their actions is a great thing, and I feel like that's where it started. But now I feel like it's like almost like power hungry, like the way it's happening. Like you just going after like obscure things, and it gets to a point where it's like, who is governing this? Where's who's to say that there's no limit to where this will go?
Like, who's the gatekeeper, basically?
Exactly. I know it's like the internet, but like seriously, who is really orchestrating this to make it this big of an influence? I think where it started, as far as I can remember, Weinstein kind of kicked off, and so it's like, of course, somebody like that at that position being held accountable is great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then some people I feel like, well, at a certain point, it's like there has to be some kind of redemption, and it's like, you make a mistake and you pay for your crime, in a way, and you work your way back up. But it's also about the actions you take after that. What kind of person have you been after that happened to you, or after you've been canceled?
Yeah. So for me, I would say I agree with both of you. I personally don't agree with cancel culture. I had to actually think about this a lot, and I think I really came to the conclusion I don't agree with it. And the reason that I don't agree with it is because I feel like cancel culture was created out of like ignorance. You know what I mean? Like if we think about like Harvey Weinstein, for instance, like I don't believe that was cancel culture. I believe that was somebody Harvey Weinstein was a monster, and he did some really terrible things, and it finally caught up with him, and he's now where he belongs. And I don't think anybody disputes. I don't think it's an opinion or like of should he have paid the price, or be in jail for what he did. I think everybody should say yes, he does belong there. You know what I mean? Like for me, I believe that cancel culture is where it's more opinion based. You know what I mean? Like with Harvey Weinstein, that's not opinion based. Anybody who's like with some type of logic believes that he belongs behind bars for what he did. You know what I mean? And and he was also protected by, of course, the Hollywood elite system, in America. You know what I mean? But so that's why I don't believe in cancel culture, because my definition of cancel culture wouldn't be it wouldn't be what was I gonna say? My definition is, like I said, it's opinion. It's opinion based. It's not, it's up in the air. A lot of stuff is like based on like how you feel, or do you agree with this? I don't agree with that. You know what I mean? So, that's how I feel about about it in general. But so we did, Cash, you did bring up redemption. Do you believe that? Do you believe there is, for those who do agree with cancel culture? Do you think there is some type? Do you think people do deserve redemption? Or, I mean, I guess it's kind of based on what they did, honestly.
Yeah, of course. Oh yeah, of course, of
Yeah.
course. I just feel like, okay, so people can get drunk off power.
Right.
Like you get somewhere, you work your way up, or it happened fast for you. However,
Right.
however it went, but you got there and you have some notoriety, some fame, and things are just coming your way, and things just happen for you because of that fame. Um, After a while, like I guess some people, it intoxicates them. It makes them, feel like they're untouchable.
Right.
And
Right.
this kind of checks that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's people who learn from that, those kind of situations, and wholeheartedly, want to be,
like
forgiven.
humility.
Yeah. I can't speak for a lot of the people,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of them, like I said, were drunk off power. And I think the most damaging part about it is it could be just based off of people people's opinion, and someone hearing something about somebody, and then it just goes there. Like if there's evidence of it, and you're like Harvey held accountable in the court of law, that doesn't always happen, because it's like the court of public opinion.
Right.
And
Right.
when that happens, there's not much control with that.
Right.
It's like somebody can say whatever they want and feel however they want, but if somebody who has that influence can make that person lose everything,
right,
then it's like it could be dangerous. It could be like the bully becoming the bully in a way.
Right.
Like if there was some kind of checks and balance, then I would kind of be able to get 100% behind it. But there isn't.
Right. How about you? How about you, T? Do you feel like it should be redemption for those who believe in cancel culture?
Redemption for those who believe in it,
or redemption for the people that believe that do cancel people or try to cancel people?
Yes, because I feel like Cass said, it's public opinion. It's all based on opinion.
Yeah.
And it's like a judge and jury situation, and nobody,
right.
Who are we all to judge anybody? We're not judges. We shouldn't be judging people based upon things in entertainment or whatever, based upon something they feel. It's just I don't believe that. I don't feel like that. Nobody's higher than anybody else. Like I said, now there's exceptions to that rule for me. Like I said, if it's going as far as for things that's damaging or hurting, causing damage or hurting people, or of course that's something that's a horse of a different color.
Right.
But
I agree. Yeah.
When it comes to opinionated things, no.
Yeah,
and it's interesting because you brought up jury, and I was actually talking to a friend about this, and the cancel culture mob is they play the jury. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you have a lot of these corporations and stuff who you use them as the jury. You know what I mean? Who will go on Twitter and say, okay, look how Twitter is reacting toward something that this person did, and a company might fire someone because they're treating them as the jury. The company is not doing it based off of like their own like morals. They're doing it off of how what other people think should happen to them. And that kind of segues into my next point that I made, and this is like virtue signaling. So virtue signaling is like doing things not because not for moral reasons and moral standards, but doing them because the mob is out there. You know what I mean? And a good example, or the most recent example. Well, there's a lot of examples, but one that I was thinking of was like the whole Aunt Jemima, taking her off the pancake syrup. So that was basically like you had a company that had this culturally insensitive like person as a character as a logo, and when the whole Black Lives Matter thing blew up, they wanted to say, oh, well, we care, so we feel like this has been insensitive. But it's like, if you really felt like that was insensitive, then why didn't you do it 20, 30, 40 years ago? You know what I mean? But now that now that it's this whole thing about like you know you know Black Lives Matter and Black voices and all this stuff that happened in 2020, now you want to act like you're a superhero, and you know what I mean, and I'm doing something, you know what I mean. But really, I just feel like that was just them just pandering. You know what I mean? So how do you guys feel about that, like virtue signaling, as far as cancel culture?
Interesting. Never really thought about it like that. It's really like, it just seems like it's going off road. Like just seems like it's like kind of going after. I mean, example, Pepe Le Pew, like even going after characters like toys, like Mr. Potato Head. Even though that didn't go through, it's kind of like the fact that it was considered, like, really, Now I'm not in these people's shoes who feel some kind of way about that. I can't speak for the. Maybe we need to have somebody who is on the other side of it who can speak to why they feel like it offends them or whatever. But it's getting to a point where it's like, yo, growing up, like, you've been offended by stuff. You've been offended, and you learn how to deal with it. Whereas like you feel like people aren't gonna deal with it; they're just gonna get you up out of here. That's how we're gonna deal with it.
Or they're not gonna sit and talk and try to understand your opinion and my opinion. They're just gonna automatically just say, well,
expect you to be removed. Expect you to be removed from their life, or
like guilt, like guilty until proven, and or just automatically assuming that you're guilty without even giving you some type of due trial, basically.
Right. So you're out of here. There's no talking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. That's people. If it's like they go with the roar, they go with the noise. They don't go. They don't. They'll go with the noise before they even go do research themselves.
Right.
So they'll jump on the bandwagon before they even have a chance to even really figure out or find out what's going on.
Right.
It's just it seems like it's just popular to, someone says something like, oh yeah, and then they just jump on that bandwagon. But it's like, how many people do you really know will say, wait a minute, well, I don't know much about that. Let me go find out for myself.
Right. Which is, oh my goodness, that's like the biggest part of it, is that it's based off someone else's opinion, and then it rolls on that way, and people just jump on it. Or it might have been reported, and then people like, oh, you know, and then they get up in arms, and then it spirals to the next person like a domino effect,
Mm-hmm.
and before you know it, like it's taking effect. It's able to go through. It's able to
Right.
happen.
And I think that's a big problem, especially when it comes to social media, because people just people don't really go in depth and try to do like research or find another like source. You know what I mean? They just go
Mm-hmm.
with the first thing they see on Twitter, or they see the mob saying something, and they automatically assume that what's trending is automatically the whole story or the truth. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
of course we live in a like a state of like misinformation and fake news and all that stuff, because we know how that goes. Stuff is getting well, now they're trying to fact check stuff, but it's like, you know, people will just be quick to hit that share button, you know what I mean, and not really find out where the source is coming from or if it's true.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, you know, yeah, so yeah.
You know what's a great example of that is like you have a meme and it could say something like, yeah, the sky is blue, right? And then underneath it have Abraham Lincoln, as if Abraham Lincoln said that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, you know,
right,
like,
right.
and then like mad people
Mhm.
are sharing it,
Mhm.
sharing it. Like, yeah, Abraham Lincoln was on point with this. You
And
see
then
that a lot.
and
Nobody,
they consider themselves educated after that.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy. It's like nobody has their own thought process anymore. It's almost like it's hip to just go with what's popular.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the world we live in now, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And that's, unfortunately, I feel like that's the masses, and that's why I always like to find another source before I'm so quick to believe something. Or, you know, I if I'm going to follow any news, it's going to be independent news, because these big companies, Fox News, CNN, they're, you know, these are big corporations. Like they're getting paid to put because to be biased toward a certain, you know, lean more toward a certain way. You know what I mean? But a lot of people are loyal to these sources. You know what I mean? And
that's true.
You know, so
and that's where they get their narrative to run with, based on that. You know, like based on that programs them to jump into a pocket.
Right. And also, T, like another thing that you had mentioned that I wanted to touch on was this. I feel like the cancel culture mob is a small minority with a very loud voice. You know, I feel like they're not necessarily the majority, but almost like that saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease or whatever. Like they have such a loud voice and such a loud presence that, you know, a lot of these companies and stuff don't want to deal with them. You know what I mean? They just want them to shut up. So they're just going to, you know, go out and kind of just give them what they want. You know what I mean? Because they just want them to be quiet or show, or, you know what I mean? They don't want the bad publicity and the bad press, you know?
Right.
So, and of course we know that a lot of these companies that have fired people or canceled people, they, if what they did, if people never complained about it, they would have never canceled that person.
Absolutely.
Their hands forced.
Exactly. So it really shows you that they don't really care. They only care about their image. They don't care about, like, it's not really morals that they're putting out here. You know what I mean? It's just caring about their brand, caring about their money, their pockets, you know?
Well, I wonder how much is that true, though, when it comes to, because in this day and age of technology, things are being recorded. So, you know, when someone gets recorded by saying a derogatory remark or being racist or what have you, and then they lose their job, it may just be, now say if it was never recorded, their company, their boss, whoever, wouldn't know otherwise, because it's not in black and white. It's not right here where I can see that. So is it as much as that they're just doing it because of the masses, or is it that, hey, you can't get out of this because I see this right here, it's recorded that you said this. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's probably a combination of both. I think that there are some places that just, they might know what how they feel, or they may have done something, and if it never got out there, or the mob never came for them, they probably could have kept their job. But because the mob came out, and actually, so I have an example, so
Mm-hmm.
of basically like double standards. So something like Disney. Like I think that Disney, as much as I love Disney, and they put out a lot of stuff, and they own Marvel, they own Star Wars, um, it, it, I feel like there's a lot of double standards when it comes to Disney, because
Mm.
if you guys are familiar with Gina Carano, who played Cara Dune in the Mandalorian
Mm-hmm.
series, yeah.
Mandalorian, yeah.
So she got fired because of some really silly, foolish things that she put out on Twitter. Which, do I
Right.
think she should have got fired for them? I mean, that's kind of up for debate. I mean, they were silly and foolish, and I really don't think I really don't feel like someone of that, who's in that position, should really be putting all that stuff out there. Like, just get off Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, you got a job with Disney, get off Twitter, shut your mouth, whatever. But so she got fired, but then, so I don't. So the Mulan movie, the latest, the live action Mulan movie that came out, they actually
Mm-hmm.
did they shot some scenes in China, in Xinjiang, China, where there are internment camps of about 1 million people who are like Muslims and Christians, and so a lot of people don't know about this, but there's alleged like human rights abuse, mistreatment, rape, and torture going on over there, and they
Mm.
shot yeah, so they shot some scenes over there, and they thanked the Xinjiang government for letting them shoot over there, and that's like, to me, a lot. That was something that was like controversial, but it kind of flew under the radar because a lot of people didn't hear about it.
Right.
And so I feel like, you know they they fired Gina Carano for things that she said, but at the same time, you're going to go and shoot over in China, where there's internment camps, where that there's human rights abuse and stuff going on, and it's like, I just feel like there's a lot of there can be a lot of double standards when it comes to cancel culture. Like, people will pick and choose who they want to cancel and who they don't
Yeah,
want to cancel.
for
Well,
sure.
I'm not well versed on what did she say?
So so basically, she's a conservative,
Mm-hmm.
and that's right there. That's automatically a strike against her, because she's in Hollywood, and we know a lot of Hollywoods are liberals.
Mm-hmm.
So Disney is a liberal, for the most part, a liberal company entity, and she was saying some things about, like, she was making some jokes about masks, as far as like people are taking it too far when it comes to masks and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And the final straw that actually got her fired was a something that she put on Instagram, comparing
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
comparing conservatives being almost like they're being targeted, like the Jews were
Yeah.
in the Holocaust. Now I'm paraphrasing. I
They,
don't have the exactly what she said.
yeah,
I
but
thought it.
that to
I
that
thought it
effect.
was, yeah. I thought it was ignorant. I thought it was distasteful. And she took it down. And I felt like she had no business. Even she shouldn't be doing that, for one, because she's a public figure working for Disney. So it's like, I don't think it just
She
you
needs
know
to shut the hell up.
exactly. But my thing is, I felt, I really don't have a dog in the fight, so I'm like, whatever, you know what I mean? But I don't know if Disney talked to her and had told her ahead of time, you need to chill on Twitter, and
Mm-hmm.
she didn't listen, and that was her final straw. We don't really know
Right.
the insides, but a lot of people, and then there was some other stuff that, when it came to like the LGBTQ community, when they were trying to force her to put her pronouns on her Twitter, but she didn't want to put pronouns on her Twitter, and they were calling her homophobic because she didn't want to do it, and she felt like she was being bullied into something that she didn't want to do on her own. Um,
Right.
so, but at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, I feel like there's a lot of double standards when it comes to cancel culture. There can be a lot of double standards. Well, they will get rid of this person, but they won't get rid of that person. And even with like James Gunn, who
I
directed
was, man, you read my mind. I was going to bring that up too.
He directed, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, and they had fired him because of those tweets, and that somebody dug up, and then they hired him back, and it's like, I'm kind of indifferent about that, because I feel like if you really felt some type of way and you stood for that and you wanted to fire someone for something, why would you
hire him back? Yeah.
Why would you hire him back? Like, was it just a stunt to get rid of him, to make people happy, and then just when it all dies down, hire him back? You know what I mean? So
it's just PR.
Yeah. So
PR.
Yeah. But
which is what it all is, really. But yeah, if that person has burned bridges by doing what they did, or said something that could offend the community that supports them, like, yeah, that's going to be very difficult for that person to come back. Because that's when they chosen, like, hey, you did something that we can't get with, so you're done. And that's how you end up staying out.
Right.
So,
and also, people dig back into people's past. People will go back into the early 2000s and 90s, back when a lot of things couldn't be made now. Like, there's a lot of comedy and stuff that couldn't be made, but people are basically judging them in 2021 based on how things were back in 1996 or something like that. And so so I feel like there's no limits to cancel culture for the mob. There's nothing. There's nothing.
No statute of limitations.
Exactly.
That's the most, well, not the most recent, but they just went through that whole situation with The Bachelor. I don't know if you guys followed that, with the girl who was a runner-up, and she, back in, I think it was 2017 or something like that. She attended a party. Yeah, she
heard about that. Yeah,
antebellum type party.
Yeah, yep. On a plantation. On a plantation,
yeah.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And she took the picture with her and her friends, and they were all in the dresses and things of that nature. But she was on this season's episode, of The Bachelor, and it was a black man. He's actually the first black bachelor. In history. And she's a white female, and she was a runner-up, and actually he chose her. But then, of course, that's recorded prior to all of when the hoopla came out about it. But he actually ended their he ended their engagement over it. And they're not together right now. And they did the whole final rose thing on Monday, where he expressed that we're not together right now, and it's due to she needs to get her own learning and education as to why that is wrong. He's like, because she really didn't think, she's like, I didn't think it was wrong. All in my mind, I thought I was attending a party, a Southern party, and it was just that.
Right.
So,
there was also, I think she liked a tweet or something that had a Confederate flag in it. I believe there was something, she liked that as well. There was something else that she did. And did you see the apology that she made?
Yeah.
She was like going off. She was just doing too much. Yeah. I'm like, you're doing the most. Like, I get putting an apology, but that's the thing about the mob will make you fearful, where you're putting these apologies out. Like, the newest apology was, I don't know, the Sharon Osbourne thing.
Oh, man.
With Cheryl Underwood.
Yeah.
And she's putting this apology out, and it sounds so like, it sounds like there's so much fear behind it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really sound genuine. It just sounds fearful, that they're just scared that the mob is gonna come after them, or they're gonna have a certain community of people against them. You know what I mean?
Should be sitting there at home with Ozzy.
Right. I mean, it's I don't know, man. It's I feel like when it gets to the point of, like, people just being so scared to make the smallest mistake. Like, there was actually a clip that I saw of Jimmy Fallon, and he had what was that who's the RuPaul. He had RuPaul on his show, and it was something that Jimmy said about like the drag queen community or something that he said, and RuPaul was joking with him, but he didn't let him know at first. He made him, he said something, and then RuPaul acted like he was offended by it, and Jimmy just tensed up, and you could see the fear in his eyes. He literally got scared that he said the wrong thing against this community that he's not very, familiar with, or he doesn't know all the terms, and then RuPaul's like, I'm just messing with you, and he was just like, it was, and and it was like, it was a sigh of relief. Like he was out of his element. He's a comedian, he's a professional comedian, but at that moment you could tell that he was genuinely scared and he was genuinely relieved. So, but that just shows you the level of fear that people really have when they feel like they've made a mistake toward like a certain group of people. You know what I mean? And that's terrifying.
I think it's too that they don't want to offend too. Yeah. Like I really do, because they know it's like, I mean, there's some people who genuinely are like, I don't want to offend this group of people. I don't. Then there's others that's like, okay, I don't want to say the wrong thing because I can lose my job. I mean, I think there's different levels to it. Because nowadays you have to be careful what you say against all different types of groups of people. You have to be mindful what you say, because if not, one thing can get you messed up.
Right. But I think just the fact that like people, I just think the fact that it's gotten this serious, it's come this far to where we can't make a mistake. We're human, we're gonna make mistakes. If we're not familiar with a certain community, we might say the wrong thing. We might, and the fact that we aren't allowed to do it. It's one thing. Like I do think everybody should educate themselves, and everybody should learn and be open-minded and have these conversations, but at the same time
and be held accountable.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, we should be allowed to make mistakes because we're human, and if we're terrified of making mistakes, and if we're being genuine and sincere, but we're still afraid of making the mistake, then I think that it has gotten to the point where it's a problem,
But we all are grown though. I mean, unless you really are a child.
Yeah.
If you don't know about something, don't speak on something you don't know. That's number one. Like, I mean, that can save you too. Like, if you don't know, if you're not well educated on something, just don't speak about it. But then also too, it's like, I don't know. There's people saying some ignorant things because they really are saying some ignorant things.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's not even about, I didn't know. I think people take and use that as a crutch to be like,
cop out.
Like, I didn't know. I didn't like Sharon Osbourne. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Come on. It's just people use that as a scapegoat at some point because now they don't want to feel the full backlash of something.
Right.
So it's like, you know what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. If not for nothing, it's inappropriate.
Right.
Like, I mean, I watched that segment that she did with Cheryl Underwood, and she really came out of pocket. She was highly disrespectful. It was based, just nothing else disrespectful. She and Cheryl, what bothers me too is that Cheryl, being a Black woman, saw she was trying to stay in this lane of not getting out of to becoming the angry Black woman.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because she would have been well within her right.
Right.
To fire at her. Right. She would have, because Sharon was highly disrespectful to her.
Right.
Highly. And I was like, but then you see that Cheryl was being real mindful about what she was saying, how her approach was, which is not fair, because
she was being very patient with her. Yeah.
Very. Very. And then also being given that gentle, it's like you're babying her almost, like just for the sake, because she's now getting so upset and hot and bothered. I didn't like that. I didn't agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, Sharon was cursing. She was using, and she typically does. I mean, I've seen her throughout the years from their show. I used to watch the show, The Osbourne. I mean, she's very loose with the tongue anyway.
Yeah.
But you're on your show.
Yeah.
Again, it's a time and a place.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. Well, I mean, they're going after Eminem. I think that's the
Yeah,
newest. That's
good,
the
good.
newest. The newest entry.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, what they're basing it off of is, far as I understand, the song he did with Rihanna, "Love the Way You Lie." Like, that's the song you want to cancel him over. Like, he's done far more things, but y'all want to go at him for that
Oh
song?
yeah,
Like,
he's done a
come
lot
on.
of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Or it might be, it's either that or Monster. It's one of them two songs. And it's like really though, like either one is kind of like the things he's done in the past, like the lyrics. But at the end of the day, it's like it's speech too. You know, it's you can't pick and choose.
Yeah.
You know what you I like I said, I get it. I get why it's a thing. But it has to be some kind of governance. Like it's there's no limit. Like how far we're gonna go back. You know, like there's some ugly past, there's some ugly history. Um, you want to cancel all that? Like it's part of it. It's all part of where we are, and you know, I don't think necessarily just wiping it away is the cure for it.
Yeah.
I mean, in Texas schools, they took slavery out and called them workers and things like
Oh
that. Like,
yeah. Right. Right.
come on, like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. That's dangerous.
Well,
It's dangerous.
you're softening the the seriousness of what really
Right.
happened. You
And
know.
it doesn't need to be. It needs to be
Right.
just what it is and be known as what it is.
Right.
And it's
You
not
know?
even in Texas. They have that over here at the I don't know if you guys have ever been. What is it? That is it called the Hampton House over here in Towson? The
Yep, the Hampton
plantation.
House, yeah.
They have it up
Yeah.
there on their signs too about the way they're very
Mm-hmm.
mindful of how they address slaves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Yep.
go, it's wild. It is
Mm-hmm.
so wild.
Yeah. I mean,
It's irresponsible.
it
Hmm.
It
is,
is. It
but
really is.
it's just almost like I feel like there's an argument on so many sides, and someone's going to be like, "Well, if this person can do this, then why can't I do that?" Or if this person's going to, soften this, well, why can't I soften that? You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm.
who's the
Mm-hmm.
gatekeeper? Who makes the decisions? So I don't know. It's you know
Yep.
it's all opinion based. Cancel culture
Yeah.
is definitely opinion based. If somebody like there's no opinion to if someone goes into a store and robs a store and gets arrested and goes to jail. That's you committed a
Mm-hmm.
crime. Bottom line, there's no opinion behind that. But
Mm-hmm.
cancel culture is very opinion based. You know what I mean? And that's the problem
Mm-hmm.
with it. It's just so. I don't know.
It's to the point where comedians are scared to, or they're more mindful of the jokes they tell and like how they come off. Like,
Oh yeah, except
that's bad.
Dave Chappelle is not scared of being canceled.
No, no,
He's the one
no.
like he could care less. you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
He's in his pocket. He's in his pocket for sure. Dave
yeah,
Chappelle's in his bag. He's
right.
definitely in his bag, and that's why he's the GOAT.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
another thing I kind of wanted to bring up was the Me Too movement and
Mm-hmm.
how like I don't know if you guys have heard any. I didn't follow a lot. I followed it some of it, but not too much of it. But the Johnny Depp Amber Heard uh,
Mm-hmm.
stuff that was
A
going
little
on.
bit.
Yeah, I followed a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, and from what I followed of doing seeing both sides and doing hearing some things and doing some research, like it was a situation where Amber Heard tried to paint a picture of it was all Johnny. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where she was doing stuff herself and she was being verbally abusive to him,
Mm.
and so but with the Me Too movement, it it was a good, well, it's still a good thing, but it's been perverted just like a lot of things, where it's like, as soon as you hear about a woman who says that I've been abused, people don't want to even, people will automatically believe her. They won't even,
yeah, they don't question it.
They won't question it. You know, people didn't want to question Johnny. They just wanted to, you know, I think he got fired. Didn't he get fired from the new, did he get fired from the new Pirates movie or something because of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was, I didn't know it was because of that at the beginning, but I think that is the case.
But you know, there's speculation that if she got fired from the new Aquaman, I'm not sure if she got removed. But yeah, so you know, it was that people will automatically say, well, it was, she's coming out and she's saying this stuff, and it was just Johnny, and people don't want to hear his side. You know, and he actually had he had recordings, and I heard some of the recordings, and it was just a toxic relationship all around. But she was definitely had some you know, she was egging him on, she was being verbally abusive to him as well. So you know, it's not just a one-sided thing. But you know, with that whole Me Too movement, you know, they just want to believe, a lot of them, the mob just wants to believe and cancel the man without hearing his side of the story. You know what I mean? And that can be very problematic as well, you know. So
wow, man. That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack.
It is a lot to unpack. It's a lot of oh, and then the newest thing is, I think there were, I don't know how many people were trying to do this, but there was some tapes, that audio recordings of Kirk Franklin cussing out his son or something.
Oh.
So there was.
Didn't know about that.
I think there was.
Tell me more.
That's all I know. But there was a small group, I think, that wanted to cancel him for that. And I'm just like, I mean, that's his. I don't know. Someone had put a post up on Facebook talking about, you remember the time when Angie Stone knocked her daughter's teeth out? I mean, that's
no, I didn't even know about.
I don't know about that.
No, so it was just something that really happened. It's not funny, but it kind of is.
Like, the way you said it was
it's
funny.
not what actually happened isn't funny, but then people were kind of referring that to, people were saying, you want to cancel Kirk Franklin, but yet y'all didn't have anything to say when Angie Stone like knocked her daughter's teeth out, and someone had a picture. I don't know. So,
but see, the Kirk Franklin thing, his son was being disrespectful.
Yeah,
I think he was being highly disrespectful to his father. I mean, I mean, come on.
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
And it's a personal.
Like, they can get you out of pocket.
Kids can push your buttons, and then at the end of the day, that's his personal. Like cursing your child out is different than putting your hands on them and abusing them. You know, like you can get frustrated in your personal life, and you know, say things and get worked up. I don't know. But that was the newest thing that I heard, you know. But
and then Kirk Franklin's daughter came out and she, debunked all of that anyway. She came out in support of their father.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, him cursing, like, come on now. I think it's more a story and a thing because of who he is and what he stands for.
Exactly. And I think and I feel like in a way that's people's fault for putting someone on a pedestal. You know.
Yeah. Which is why we are where we are now anyway.
Exactly.
Putting people yeah.
You know, putting celebrities on a pedestal, putting social putting public figures, you know, treating them a certain way as if they're not just as human as you and make similar mistakes than you. You know, if you didn't do that, then you wouldn't have these standards and you wouldn't be let down as much, you know? So
yeah. But, totally agree, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, it doesn't end. That's just like, it's like every couple weeks there's some new entry. And it's just like it gets more and more ridiculous.
It really does.
Like, you're gonna cancel a character. How about go after the people who created the character?
Right.
character didn't come out of nowhere.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's plenty of racist characters in animation and cartoons back in the day, like
Yeah.
plenty
Disney,
of
Looney
them.
Tunes. Yeah. Well,
Like if we're gonna do it that way, none of it's gonna really
right.
exist.
Speaking of which, let me ask you guys this. Okay, so Dumbo on Disney Plus. This is what they did. I don't know if you guys heard about it. So the crows in Dumbo, you know the crow scene.
Yep.
The infamous crow
the
scene.
original Dumbo.
Yeah, the animation.
Yeah.
So what they did was they took Dumbo and they made it so that if you have a children's account, you can't watch it, but if you have an adult account, you can watch it. Like that was their way of kind of a soft cancel to
keeping
Dumbo.
Keeping it without totally canceling it.
I don't know how I feel. I don't know. Like when you're little and you watch that stuff, you don't really think about it, and you get older, you're like, hold up, that's, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of racist. Like we can kind of see the racial undertones to this scene. You know what I mean? But it's like, I don't know. Is that their way? I don't. So I know that HBO Max had pulled. I've never seen it, but Gone with the Wind, because it's about the Confederacy and all that stuff. So I know that they had pulled it off and they put it back up, but they put a disclaimer at the beginning that basically says, this was shot and
reflects the time.
And there's some things that are culturally insensitive, or and I think actually Disney had put a few of those up in front of maybe some of their movies as well. But I don't see a problem with that personally. I think that that's cool. I think that's a pretty smart way to do it, because it's basically saying that it's basically a disclaimer letting what could offend people, or what is there's a scene or whatever in this movie. But the Disney thing is kind of, it seems a little strange to me to put that behind a adult account. I don't know how I don't really know how I feel about that. But how do you guys feel about that? Would you say?
I think
about putting up disclaimers.
Well, no. Disney took Dumbo and they made it so only adult accounts can watch the original cartoon. Yeah, and it's a little weird. Like I don't know. Like it's.
I mean, they have the up-to-date version, and kids will probably want to watch that anyway.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it is true.
But at the end of the day, it's like you don't want to cancel that. Like, even though it was racist, it's like you might as well just dead the whole thing, or give it a date where it's no longer going to be available, or some crap like that.
Right.
I don't know, man. It's a lot of moving parts.
It is.
I have a take on it though, and I feel like it's the younger generation that moves this thing, and because of that, like, I feel like this is something we've, I guess, cultivated in a way. When I say that, I mean we cultivated as a society to have this be a thing, because this is the kind of thing we want. We kind of want our kids to make the world a better place. Like, is it just us not wanting to let go and looking at it like, oh, these things that we grew up with, like, even if they're things that we agree with too, but as a society, we kind of like don't want to see it go. Like, we don't want to see certain things fall under that and be taken away. Like, is that just us being connected to that and not, understanding where the people who are pushing for these people to be removed, or these things to be removed, come from? Like, that's why I say, is it such a bad thing? Like, is it such a bad thing? Because this is like, they're holding people accountable for things. Like, we've had conversations about the cartoons and things that we saw, and then we might have laughed it off, like, because we just know, like, hey, just
we know nothing's going to be done.
It's a
So
tough.
like it's a fight we're not going to
Yeah,
win. Yeah.
but now it's and this is something I always believe. Like you want to hurt somebody, you go after their pockets. That's when they're gonna feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these
That is true.
corporations
Yeah.
and things.
Yeah.
Now people are actually doing it. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like this is what we wanted. You know,
Yeah.
but is there going to be a limit, or is it going to spiral to where like everything's just everybody's just PC and it's just like nothing
Mm-hmm.
real, and
Mm-hmm.
you know that's the part.
That's a good take. I often challenge myself and I question myself a lot on those
Mm-hmm.
things. You know, like how do I really feel about things? I mean, I also think about like, you know, you have museums like you have like the Jim Crow Museum, where a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these things can stay in a vault where it's like it's a whole room or just museum full of just racist imagery and propaganda, racist propaganda, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something that is teaching a history lesson as opposed
Yeah.
to someone watching something and they see something and they don't know if it's offensive or they find it offensive, but they don't really, there's no like lesson or history being taught. It's just entertainment. So I do feel
Yeah.
like if you're going to pull these things, you know, put them in a museum, put them in, you know, a museum that can actually, that actually has a theme that teaches the history of America. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and like when we talk about like taking these monuments down and stuff like that, like put them in a museum. Like, you don't have to like just crumble them. They're a piece of history, but put them somewhere where, like, just like you have like I don't know, you have like a Harriet Tubman museum, or you have places because history happens, and I feel like we do need to. I feel like we do need to learn our history. You know what I mean? But we need to learn
Give it an appropriate space, basically.
exactly, and from
Yeah.
and have people who are educated who can teach and we can learn from them. You know what I mean? We can learn the real history of America. You know what I mean? And a part of it, like what you said, Donald, like I do feel like there's a lot of like fragility of like America. Like they don't want to talk about, they just want to sweep things under the rug. And I mean, they've been doing this forever, but they just don't want to talk about these things. So they'd rather cancel them or watering them down than actually talk about the
Mm-hmm.
ugly truth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because let's face
It
it,
makes them
it's
uncomfortable.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
it makes them
Yep.
uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that discomfort, I feel like because we have never actually dealt with the original sins of America, we've never actually sat down and looked at it face to face and had these uncomfortable conversations that this is the result. This is where we're at. You know, this is why we're
Yeah.
here. You know what I mean?
You
Like
keep
it's not going to just go away. It's like just like someone who has had trauma, who has been like abused, they can keep it inside and they can not go to
yeah.
therapy, but it's going to come out at some point. It's not just
Yeah.
going to go away. Yeah.
You keep sweeping it under the rug and it's gonna
Right.
get bumpy.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
It's
You
gonna be a
know,
tripping
and
hazard.
yeah,
Yes, indeed.
you know, and when we see the whole uprising of like, you know, Black Lives Matter and the whole 2020 and all the protests, people want to be like, oh my God, you know, they want to be all shocked, but like, there's nothing shocking about it. This stuff has been boiling under the surface for so long. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't something that just appeared. It's always been there. It's just that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it erupted to the surface. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
it is something that we have to confront. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I just know that it is
Mm-hmm.
something that has to be faced and confronted. You know, so.
Mm-hmm. The PR campaign that they're trying to put on this thing is not working.
Right,
It's not
it's
working.
not. It's not going away. And I think, like you said, with this new generation, a lot of them are, they can be very militant and they can be very radicalized as far as like
Mm-hmm.
they're not taking any BS. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like the whole, it's interesting because what comes to mind was that whole TikTok thing where they trolled Donald Trump. The whole,
Yeah.
remember the people from TikTok, they went and bought all those seats at one of his rallies. And
Oh
then,
yeah.
and I'm like, don't ever underestimate the newer generation and the stuff that and the tools that they can use. You know what I mean? And their
Mm-hmm.
smarts at,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
so
But they were
That's
actually
true.
paying people to come to his
yeah.
rallies and such. It's
Mm-hmm.
like craziness.
Mm.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad
Wow.
I'm glad that whole administration is gone. Like, oh gosh, I'm glad we're not under that foolishness anymore.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm. But so we have about six minutes left. We can keep talking. Do you guys want to plug anything, or do you have any final thoughts or anything, or anything you'd like to say?
I'd like to say just tune in every Friday, and
Yeah.
We will have some deep and meaningful conversation. And T, I'm sure you have something you like to plug.
My sentiments are we still want to
yeah, that's still going on. What's up?
Oh,
yeah,
I know.
Absolutely.
Will you be able to do it this Friday?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Every Friday at My Sentiments on IG Live.
All right.
It's MY.
I'll put it up on the screen too. On post.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Sentiments _ on IG.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I'll try to make it this week. Make sure
that's right. They got more. Have you anybody tested out tested out their extra?
No, we could try that on Friday.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool, man.
Yeah, good conversation. It's a deep conversation. It's a lot to unpack. Like I have notes that I didn't even get to, but I'm like, if I got to everything, we'd probably go over time,
Yeah.
I just hope that I don't know. I guess my final thoughts are basically I hope that we get to a point, which I don't know if we will, but I hope we can get to a point where we can actually hear each other out and be able to talk to people and have these like uncomfortable, just don't always think the worst or don't always assume that this person means something negative or like I don't know, like don't be so quick to just jump up and assume that get offended over something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in order to have productive dialogue, people have to be open, and you have to be vulnerable.
Yes,
you have to be
vulnerable. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it's important, and you can't be defensive, and that's in any conversation.
Yes.
If you find anytime there's someone being defensive present or not being able to be vulnerable, it makes for a very difficult conversation.
Absolutely.
9 times out of 10, you're not gonna take away anything from it, and there won't be any kind of understanding.
100%. 100%.
Agreed.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wind this down. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Every week, every Friday, we're here. YouTube. We're on all the major podcast services. We're official on Apple Podcasts. Makes us official.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm so proud of that.
Yeah, so that's a big deal because Apple's the biggest podcasting service out here. So I made sure that we it took a little finessing, but I got it to work.
I knew you'd get it done.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But so we're on all the major podcasts and we're on YouTube, and we hope you guys enjoy the content. We have a Facebook page. Everything is up on the screen. And so we look forward to hearing from you guys as once we start getting more followers. You know what I mean? We hope to build up a nice fan base. We want to continue doing this. Consistency is king. You know what I mean? Keep bringing you guys good content, good dialogue, and good subjects. So So we will see you guys next week.